to the 18 card challenge legacy game finalists. We have 14 finalists out of 60. It was hard enough to narrow it down to 14, and from here we need to narrow it down to 3 and then to 1. A lot of these games did a couple things right that we were looking for. One was introducing an interesting legacy element, something that didn't feel unnecessary or added on, and impacts the game in interesting ways. Another thing is just looking for interesting games overall. New and interesting mechanics and themes and integration of the two of them, as well as just interesting ideas and concepts. So you'll see a little bit of that. Great use of components. The legacy stuff is used for legacy as opposed to game setup. One of the things we were trying to avoid, while we allow it, but we were trying to avoid it, was cutting cards, for example, before you start the game. We wanted something like that to be integrated in the gameplay and a meaningful action, as opposed to a way to, create some chits and things like that. So it was really cool to see everything you're going to see in these next videos, and we're just going to show the videos in whole. We've never really done that before, so be prepared to sit here for about 30 minutes of 14 pitch videos. And we want to show them in whole, see what we saw and what we were interested in, and kind of form your opinions on which should be the top 3 in the winner. So here we go. Check out the finalists for the 18 card challenge legacy game.
Welcome to Ancient Wonders, which is an 18 card legacy solo game set in the age of the ancient world. In this game, you are playing a leader trying to build your civilization from the ground up, and you're going to be doing that over the course of 10 games or 10 chapters in the campaign. The game is made up of 3 different types of cards. There are your storage cards, which track your inventory of resources. And you'll notice that the higher limits are currently locked off. You can unlock those over the course of the campaign. There are also wonder cards. And wonder cards cost resources in order for you to build them into your civilization. So that's where the resources come into play. They also contain special powerful citizens like this architect that allows you to permanently X out resource on a built wonder, which is moving forward going to allow you to build wonders cheaper. This is the master builder that gives you a different ability. The third type of card are the district cards, and this is really the heart of the game. How gameplay works is you're simply going to take one of these 4 cards in the queue, play it to begin forming your civilization, which is a row of cards. Then you're going to just take the card and replace it. You're going to keep doing that until both decks run out or you can't play any more cards. There's a mechanic that I just call an overlapping mechanic that really is what kind of gives the game its meat, if you will. So when you add a new card, you can always add it beside an existing card to extend your civilization, or you can overlap 1, 2, or all 3 sections, and you can do that anywhere in your civilization. And that's where the tough decision-making comes into play. When you overlap a card or a section, that section ceases to be part of your civilization. But what you gain from that is either gold, a resource, or the ability of the citizen. Now, resources and citizens cost you a gold to activate them, whereas gold, you actually gain a gold when you cover it, but you are also sacrificing because you're eliminating this scoring condition that's associated with it. So the game is really a spatial reasoning game that also uses resource management, in which you are trying to factor in, is it better to expand my civilization, cover up vital parts that I need to evolve my civilization. The legacy component adds new wonders, new rules, new events, powerful new citizens that you're going to stick around, upgraded resources, upgraded scoring goals. That hopefully gives you a better sense and you want to learn a little bit more. That's Ancient Wonders. Thanks very much.
Loosely based on Jules Verne's classic Around the World in 80 Days. Players take on the roles of Phileas, Cora, or their nemesis Mr. Fix, as they endeavor to race around the world in 80 days. Around the World with Phileas Fox is a traditional style trick-taking game that has a very unique twist to it. Along with the trick-taking, you're actually going to be drawing cards, and you're going to be assigning those cards out to the other players. So by the time that trick-taking phase starts, you've got 4 cards that were chosen for you, rather than a random deal. Players need to carefully plan how they're going to distribute their cards to make sure that they have the best chance of winning. The game is carefully balanced to make sure that each game is very close, and it is designed again to tell the story of around the world in 80 days with a deck of 18 cards. It has legacy elements, which makes the game entirely uniquely your own by the time you're through with it. You're going to be adding new cards to the mix, removing older cards, and ultimately adding stickers that change up the rules until you've got a completely unique to you game that you can continue to play for years.
Hi, I'm Pablo da Pena and this is Shergami, a legacy game for one player with rules for 2 and 3 player games. It is based on the story of a real pigeon in World War I that saved the lives of the soldiers of the famous Lost Battalion after they were stranded behind enemy lines. In the game, you'll guide the homing pigeon through her different missions, traversing the skies and battlefields to deliver her messages, up until her last fateful flight. The objective is to guide Shergami during several rounds and finish with at least 1 health point. To play the game, you'll have a hand of 4 cards and will alternate placing a card from the deck and one from your hand to form a path, choosing between playing them on the left or on the right. You'll find things like clearings, where you can place another card on top, or flight sections that make you flight up or down. But the battlefield is full of dangers for a pigeon, and you lose 1 health point if you're on the same altitude as that section. There's also a card whose effect depends on the weather during your mission. Be careful, as it can be both helpful and dangerous. When you played all the cards for a round, you resolve them from left to right, checking your altitude and moving up or down when you get a flight icon, and taking damage if there's a danger at your altitude. In Shergami, you'll have to successfully deliver 12 messages, just like the real pigeon. When you finish each mission, new things get added to your game, like stickers or new cards. Some are helpful, while others will raise the stakes. You'll be able to unlock special skills to help you during a mission, but can also draw the attention of an enemy sniper. You might even get yourself in the middle of even more perilous dangers. Don't rest and flight fast. Lives depend on you.
Legacy is a 2-player semi-cooperative legacy game with RPG mechanics that takes place over 12 games or years.
Players play as the Van Helsing children in Transylvania, who are tasked with stopping Dracula after the mysterious disappearance of their parents.
Every year, Dracula spreads his corruption across the land of Transylvania, and the Helsings must stop him before he completely overtakes the land.
The Van Helsings eventually want to kill Dracula, but they won't be able to do it until they grow strong enough and gain this mysterious green vial resource. In the meantime, they can work together or bravely encounter Dracula alone in an attempt to satisfy his greed using the gold or the blood he covets. Successfully satiating Dracula will cause him to pull back from corrupting the land that year. However, he will return next year, and he will be greedier.
To become stronger, Helsings will move around the Transylvanian regions, completing quests, crafting weapons, and defeating monsters to gain experience points and gold. During the game, the players sit across from each other, rotating cards towards themselves, representing their current region.
Most tasks will require gathering resources. To gather a resource, take the region card as one of the 2 available resources. Another card from the draw pile replaces that region, causing the map to change dynamically.
After both Helsings act, Dracula will corrupt the top left region card. Corruption makes movement more difficult and resources more scarce, but reveals new locations to interact with. If Dracula corrupts all the regions before one or both Helsings stop him, the Helsings lose that year.
Experience points can be stored on the character card or used immediately to level up Helsing stats. Stopping Dracula will also provide the brave Helsing or Helsings with skill points to gain special abilities.
Some quests will also unlock narrative passages, which will lead to stickers containing follow-up quests, combat, items, and other surprises. These immersive narrative experiences will allow Helsings to affect the outcome with their choices and actions, and will have consequences that permanently affect the cards in the game.
Over the course of the campaign, players will permanently grow stronger by leveling up their stats and gaining special skills, but the challenges will increase as well. The randomized setup means that every game in the campaign will be played differently. Player choices will permanently affect the board, leading to a unique game at the end of the campaign, which players can continue to experience in a replayable endless mode.
In Dracula the Legacy, you will enter an epic campaign with an unfolding storyline, surprise twists, unlockable actions, regions, and items, and player-driven character development as players face the persistent nemesis of Dracula. The semi-cooperative nature allows players to choose whether to work alone for the glory or come together, especially as Dracula's domination draws close. Do you think you can take on the legacy of Dracula?
Jungle Adventure is an exclusively solo exploration game that lasts around 2 hours. During a 5-game story-driven campaign, you will play as a treasure hunter who has just landed on an unknown island. You will explore the jungle in search of a fabulous treasure while avoiding dangers and bad encounters. Some of your decisions will be definitive and you will have to write on the cards to remember them. You have no time limit, so you can think very carefully over each decision. The rule booklet will guide you through this 5-game adventure. Each game has a different objective in relation to the story. If you fail a game, you can restart it as many times as you want, except for the 5th game that must be completed the first time you play it. Yes, you can lose the whole campaign bitten by venomous snakes. At the start of the campaign, 2 secret cards are removed from the deck. The rest are all double-sided cards, which gives you 32 unique encounters. The gameplay is really simple. When exploring a card, you choose an action, pay its costs, and gain its reward. The cards are stacked to show which resources you have gathered. When attempting a dangerous action, you may have to perform a danger test. If the next card shows a broken heart, you take 1 damage. Stack damages just like resources. Some cards will have you write on them, affecting the next time you encounter it or even other cards, so choose wisely. The campaign is therefore only playable once. Make it worth it. During a game, you will browse the deck and solve the exploration cards one after the other until you complete the game's objective. In Jungle Adventure you will face many dangers, take difficult, irreversible decisions, manage your resources, and try to find your way to the treasure through an unforgivable jungle. You have what it takes?
In the early 19th century, a bustling outpost of seafaring scoundrels thrived off the coast of Louisiana. Barataria, the last great pirate stronghold. As a Baratarian, you will command a growing operation of smugglers turned pirates. Build your empire from the ground up, navigate a tricky political landscape, and secure your legacy as a legend among pirates. Legacy Tales Barataria is a narrative-driven, cooperative legacy game for 1 to 2 players. During the campaign, you will play through 9 different scenarios, unlocking new playable characters, upgrading them with special abilities, and expanding your stronghold. With limited time, you will need to complete objectives such as capturing a merchant ship or securing a new hideout. Objectives are split into milestones, and as you complete these, you'll gain upgrades, which will allow you to pull off more powerful actions and combos. Bonus goals allow you to take on additional risks for fun rewards and visual upgrades. On the way to completing objectives, you will explore fascinating locations, acquire and trade contraband, smuggle items to each other, perform risky feats of skill, and send your crew on voyages to bring back treasure. Pirates have their enemies though, and you will need to avoid these dangerous threats or overcome them to be successful. Turns are fairly straightforward, but give you lots of flexibility. You must take one primary action, such as performing an event on the active scene, completing an objective milestone, or facing the threat. You may also perform any number of special abilities before or after your primary action, as long as you can afford their cost. To win, you'll need to manage your resources efficiently, use abilities at the right times, and coordinate closely with your teammate. After completing the campaign, you will have a uniquely customized game to continue enjoying and playing via one of hundreds of randomized scenarios. Legacy Tales was designed to feel like a big game with a very small footprint. Legacy Tales Barataria, a legendary experience in 18 cards.
Would you rather be in charge of a city being destroyed by a giant monster, or being that giant monster? In Meteors, you get to be both. Inspired by old Godzilla movies, Meteors is a 1 versus 1 legacy game. In it, when you play as the city, your adversary takes on the role of the monster terrorizing it. At the end of each round, players exchange roles. Which one of you will be the best at protecting your city? We'll see. Cities are made of a series of cards shuffled at random. At the beginning of the game, it is composed of the lake, the forest, the construction site, the statue, the community, the house, and the cemetery. All of these cards can be destroyed by the monster by simply flipping them. How does the monster do that? The monster operates above the city. It starts on its left edge and slowly crosses the city. On its turn, the monster must perform 2 actions. It can move and it can activate powers. Move means moving 1 space forward. Activating a power means flipping the monster card. This will activate the power revealed on it. For example, this flip action will activate Crush, destroying the card directly underneath the monster. The city players can do the same things, but operates underneath the city. Some key differences are that the city card can be moved forward or backward, and flipping the city card ends your turn. City powers lets you move cards around, protect, and even repair them. For example, the relocate power will relocate the card above your action card to another spot in the city. Once the monster is out of the city, depending on how many citizens were saved or died, players will be able to upgrade cards. As there are a finite number of upgrades, each one your opponent takes is an upgrade you will never be able to get yourself. Each chapter has an objective to complete, such as protecting certain cards from destruction. Every new chapter has a little bit of text to read, new cards, new rules, and occasionally will completely change the way you play the game. Meteors has 3 different endings and many narrative and gameplay twists that are indissociable from one another. Welcome to Meteors.
In Nick of Time, a flipbook story game of pizza and time travel, you play as Nick, the world's busiest pizza delivery boy. Pizza delivered before you're even hungry may have been an unrealistic tagline passed down by corporate, had you not discovered time travel, that is. Simply break the fundamental laws of physics, mess with the space-time continuum, and you'll be Employee of the Month in no time. Nick of Time uses the flipbook story game system. Yes, like those flipbooks you made in your math textbook. In a flipbook game, each card represents the next frame of the story. Frame by frame, you will lead your hero through a tiny adventure, unlocking special items, solving puzzles, and exploring a pocket-sized universe. Every turn, Nick can move 1 space in any direction, including diagonally. To move, simply draw Nick where you'd like him to go next. When exploring a space, a table in the rulebook will tell you what you find. Let's see what a few turns could look like. And warning, this will show minor spoilers, so skip ahead for a purer experience. Nick's been given the impossible task of delivering 2 pizzas at the same time. Without time travel, somebody's going to go hungry. Luckily, Nick number 1 can deliver the first pizza, and with a special item, flip back a couple frames, splitting reality, so that Nick number 2 can deliver the second pizza at the same time. But remember, whatever you do, don't let the 2 Nicks meet each other, or things could get messy. All this time traveling may be useful for delivering pizzas, but it sure has a lasting impact on Nick's world. This is a legacy game. That means you're going to be writing on the cards, cutting components, and making other permanent changes to the game. Nick's story will be immortalized in your very own flipbook adventure. Now grab a Sharpie and start your adventure. Always remember, in the wise words of April Ludgate from Parks and Rec, time is money, money is power, power is pizza, and pizza is knowledge.
Hello, I am Arne Colton and this is an 18-card cooperative game about space race during Cold War Reach the Moon. In this game, players become members of the team testing every possible situation that could happen during the mission. The goal of the game is to sort 5 space cards from 1 to 5 using the playing cards. There are 3 suits of the playing cards and each suit has a value of 1 to 4. Every round lasts until all the space cards are sorted or players are out of the cards. When that happens,
you get 3 points for every face down card played during the game, and some of the values of the cards still held in hand. Compare the score with the table and get corresponding number of stars. When you get 7 stars, you completed the mission and you can move on. You complete the mission as well when you fail 3 times. There are 16 missions in this game, and everyone differs a bit from each other. After each round, check one of the boxes whether you succeeded or failed this round. When you get 7 points, follow the line of the completed set and alter a pictogram that you find alongside it. By this, you modify every mission that will follow. Complete all 60 missions and witness the space race during the Cold War in Reach the Moon.
I do apologize for the bad recording. I would just like to show you some of the highlights of my game Solo Survivor. I have got a single player role-playing adventure which, if played over a perfect game, or perfect campaign rather, would be 22 games, and that's without you dying once. So I think this game's got a lot of replayability. There are 6 unique missions in this game. The items, there are 5 cards which contain 10 items. It's got a pretty unique system where as you use an item, it flips over and becomes lost. It becomes something else for you to find later and then use. So as you play the game, your cards will recycle, become other things for you to then collect and use. The locations, I've got 8 location cards, and packed into these cards are an opportunity with some narrative and story. There are penalties and bonuses that are gained. The legacy aspects are applied here with the danger stickers, the 1, 2, and 3, as well as the activity section, and also this opportunity which unlocks or helps unlock the other missions that you have, like the purifier, the water sources, for example, would need a water drop from one of your missions. So as you play, you have the opportunity to potentially open and unlock other game modes. So that's pretty cool and unique, I think. Like I said, there are 8 location cards, which turn into 16 locations, which will be your north, east, south, west, being at day and at night, which also just gives other opportunities and chances to do things. And then with the zombie cards, we have 4 zombie cards, which actually turn into 16 combinations. So you can see the cards are double-sided back to front, and then with that combination mixed in with the location, it can give quite a unique experience. So yeah, I hope this video finds you well. And yeah, there's some other fun stuff with regards to the stickers and how they work, but I hope that I have made that quite clear on the rules. That also just adds to that legacy and RPG element. So thank you again for this competition, and have a great day, and good luck to everybody else.
After trekking for days through the desert, you and your colleague have finally made it to the excavation site. It was told to you by the locals that this whole valley was once an oasis for ancient dinosaurs, a bedrock host to many species yet to be discovered. This is Strata, a 2-player dexterity legacy game. In this game, you are trying to have the most points by the end of a round by casting out your trusty pickaxe and collecting dinosaur fossils. A game is played in a best of 3 rounds, but winning a single game is only half the battle. The war is won by whoever has the most points at the end of the campaign. There are 2 kinds of cards in Strata: player and fossil cards. Let's start with the player cards. There's one per player, and each is double-sided to track the various goodies you collect throughout the campaign. The meat of the game comes from fossil cards. These are also double-sided between the ground and discovery sides. When playing the game, you will throw your pickaxe onto an array of cards called the site in order to gain them in one of two ways. Either your pickaxe lands on the fossil and you add it to your hand as a discovery, or it lands on the gem and you add it to your archive, an area nearby, keeping it on its ground side. In any case, you can use this yellow burst icon to help you determine which card to pick, using this diagonal line and this center spoke. Let's take a closer look at the discovery side of a card. On each discovery, you'll find a rank, a suit, a gem cost, and an area for stars, but let's get to the stars later. A discovery's gem cost is what it takes to keep this card in your hand at the end of a round. You pay for them with gems you collect in your archive. The rank and suit are used in finding out how many points you have at the end of a round. If you have the most points in hand, you win, but be careful because you could only score multiple cards of the same suit. There's one suit that defies this rule, the wild white suit. This suit can add its rank to any other suit, but it's worthless on its own. As you progress through the campaign, you'll be marking and placing stickers on cards that will have cascading effects as the game continues to be played. Placing a sticker here permanently changes the gem cost of a card. Marking one of these bubbles permanently reduces the value of a gem, and placing stars on cards here scores players points over the course of the campaign. Placing just one star gets you points equal to the rank of the card, but adding more doubles or even triples those points. Record your discoveries and ensure they are remembered for the future. Will you dive into the depths of Strata, or will your legacy get lost, like sand in the desert?
You and your archaeological team have discovered the Temple of Xibalba. The temple was used by the Mayans to pay tribute to the Lords of Death, and as a trial for those cunning enough to outwit them. Immediately after you crossed the threshold of the temple, the doors behind you slammed shut, trapping you and your partner within. What lies ahead in the temple is unknown, but one thing is certain. The only way out of the temple is through. Temple of Xibalba is an 18-card legacy game of adventure and exploration for 1 or 2 players and lasts between 30 and 60 minutes per game. As a legacy game, you will spend time unlocking abilities, upgrading cards, and discovering new content, making each game unique and forever replayable after the campaign is completed. While playing as the Professor and the Muscle, your task will be to explore the temple by moving from your active room card and choosing between 3 room cards in the selection row. 2 rooms must be searched by both characters, placing the 3rd room in the trial to be resolved later. Both characters have unique abilities, some of which are available at the start of the game, and others that will be unlocked throughout the campaign. Each room card has a 3x3 grid to show what's inside the room. Typically, your character will only be traveling through one row or column during their turn. The active room card in front of each character will determine the row and column, as well as the direction they will be moving through their next room. Whenever a symbol is encountered, it must be resolved. When a new active room card is selected, you take the previous active room card into your hand. Different symbols in a room represent encounters such as puzzles, traps, or creatures that need to be dealt with. Characters must discard the appropriate resources from cards they have in hand or from spaces they have already crossed in the grid in order to be able to avoid the perils of the temple. If ever there are not enough cards to fill the selection row with 3 cards, then the trial begins. A trial is resolved the same way a character would typically explore a room. However, both characters will be traveling together, allowing them to share resources from their hands to overcome anything they encounter. Each card in the trial determines where to enter the next room in the trial. At the end of a trial, 1 card is removed from the game, decreasing the size of the room deck for the next round of exploration. If players can complete objectives on different room cards, or from the trial objective card, and gain 8 progress before they succumb to their wounds, or the deck runs out, they win. However, beware, the temple does not let go of a potential sacrifice so easily, and winning a game unlocks new perils and challenges to be dealt with. Do you have what it takes to complete the trials of the Temple of Xibalba and escape alive? Or will you end up as a sacrifice to the Lords of Death?
Hey guys, I'm Reese and I wanted to tell you about my new game. What the hell is that?
a competitive card game for 1 to 4 players where you play as witches suspected of crime. You have to use your magic to try and shift suspicion away from yourself and onto one of the other 16 witches from one of 4 covens. Sacred Flame, Brambleroot, Silver Branch, and Nightshade. Witch is played over a series of rounds and each revolves around a single crime that you have all been suspected of. Here, having no children. Players will each start with one witch, and on their turn, they'll draw another, and then choose which of those to play. Each witch then has 2 spells. The player will choose which of those spells to cast. Each spell has different effects that will affect yourself, other players, the crime, or other cards, and playing them is essential to remaining as innocent as possible. At the end of a round, players reveal the last card in their hand, and the witch whose number is closest to the crime is charged. If the jury card points to you, your number will shift closer to the crime. If the crime is the same color as your witch, your number will shift closer to the crime. The guilty witch is kept as a tracker and a new round begins. If a player has 2 guilty witches, the game ends. Legacy elements like keeping track of prior convictions and keeping track of innocence help shift the landscape for future games. Each of the 16 witches can also unlock a secondary spell that becomes available halfway through their life tracker. That's right. At the end, witches die. And those deaths shift coven power, affecting every subsequent game.
Just... I want to apologize. This video... This game... It's all my fault.